거리는 좀.
So far, we have all the direct flights to. So there were two ladies here. They were talking about the big change because this lady had been to China in 1978. It was before the year. I wasn't born yet in 1978. So that's how many years till now? 40 years, exactly 40 years, because this is the year of 18. Yeah, so 40 years. There were no cars running in the street, right? No high buildings. Bicycles everywhere. Well, 40 years ago, bicycles were also considered as a quite expensive thing. Yeah, there were three must things for a good marriage. I mean, for marrying a rich husband, there were three must things. First was a bicycle. Yeah, so that's why she saw there were so many bicycles running in the street. And second, a sewing machine for making clothes, because there was no fashion store. So most of the clothes were made by the ladies at home, handmade. And the third was a watch, not Rolex, not Omega, a brand named Shanghai, which had very good quality, and it cost more than 100 yuan. And back 40 years ago, 100 yuan was a very, very big thing. So those were the three must things for a marriage. Yeah. So now you see the big change. And about 20 years ago, the other three things like a refrigerator, a washing machine, and a TV set. Yeah. But now in rich cities, a house or an apartment, and Chinese people don't like to move a lot. So usually we believe the place where you were born is the place where your root was deeply planted. So it's like wherever you go in the future, wherever you work, study, but finally you're going to come back, and here's the place you had, the place with your root. So that's why Chinese people, when they select a city for living, they will stay in this city for a very long time, and usually they won't change the cities quite often. So when they select a job in the city, they will plan to have a permanent stay. So a living apartment is like a must thing in our life, because the children's education is related to where your ID belongs, and where your ID belongs is related to where you have your house or your apartment. So these are all linked together. So that's why buying an apartment is like a must for a marriage in our city, in our country. So there's a saying is that all the mother-in-laws from the girl's side are the reason why the Chinese apartments are so expensive. Because before married, the girl's parent, the girl's mother, always care. Do you have a house? Do you have an apartment? No. If you don't have, okay, forget about it. So it's like for a boy to marry a girl, the apartment is a must. So we say the mother-in-law from the girl's side is the reason why the Chinese apartments is so expensive. So nowadays, an apartment, a car, and a diamond ring. Yeah. So these are like the three basic things for a marriage. So you can see the big change from 40 years ago till now. And so why we have such big change? How to say? European history started to have the Industrial Revolution since 18th century. And before 18th century, actually, Asia was much better developed on economy, on technology, much better than Europe. But why all the Asian countries now, the economy development and the systems are not so good as the European countries, was that in Europe, they had the Industrial Revolution since 18th century. So for example, when the machines were invented, people started to work in factories. So to work in factories, you must be on time because each person just take a little part of the job in the factory. So if you cannot finish your work on time, the other people, their works have to be delayed too. So everybody has to run on the clock. And then they have a very good system that everybody has to follow the rule. So to send those workers to the factories on time, they need to invent the clock, watch. And then the buses have to be on time also. Because if the bus is not on time, the workers cannot get to the factory on time. So everybody started to follow the rule, and they created a very good environment. Yeah, it's a modern society since 18th century. But China, like China, India, these two countries were much better developed before 18th century than Europe, but mainly focused on agriculture. So working on the farm, people didn't need to follow the clocks, They just needed to get up when the sun rises and then went home when the sun set down. So they were mainly working on their own. No such big cooperation with the others. So families went first before the whole society. So family were the most important thing. So they usually followed the rules of the family, not the rules and the policies and the laws of the country. So this was the big difference. And then when people were working on farm, they had less innovation. So they had less innovation to invent new technology. So technology actually was the first thing why the world was changed so fast. Like Europe, like Spain, like Portugal, and like France, like UK. So they started sailing to other countries to do the adventure. And why they started adventure tour? Because they need to get more resources. But China and India, they had enough resources in the homeland. So they didn't need to expand the land, or they didn't need to send the ships to other countries. So actually China started from Ming Dynasty. Ming Dynasty, the emperor actually sent a large ship group to different countries, and they started from the East China Sea and South China Sea, and actually they went to the Indian Sea, but they stopped. Most of them, they came back safely, which meant China had the very good technology for sailing. But they didn't do this for adventure, for getting resources. So they were not doing this to get money. So China had no colonials at all. But Europe, since they had to expand, they had to get more resources. So when they found the land in India, they started to take India as their own colony, and then they found United States, and then they found Australia. So this was the change between, in Europe, but in Asia, because they were enjoying a very good life. India, China, they believed they were very great emperors. They didn't need to expand the country. So they stopped developing. So while Europe was developing so fast in technology, but China, India were doing nothing, making no change. So this was the big difference. And in 19th and 20th century, especially in 19th century, when UK and those European countries, they got stronger and stronger. They were quite afraid of China and India at the beginning. And in 18th century, when they found out actually China and India could be defeated easily, they became more aggressive.